Welcome back to another episode of Life After Corporate, my friend. And if you're new to our show, welcome home. I am excited to share some new insights with you today as I've been working with women entrepreneurs over the last 12 years and have been on this journey myself for that same amount of time. And things are changing and shifting, and I want to share that with you. So today we're talking about the real reason women entrepreneurs struggle to scale. I also call this wisdom, worth, and wealth. I'm Deb Boulanger, if we haven't met yet. We're talking about something that has been near and dear to my heart for this entire journey, and why I'm willing to bet it's also impacting you. And I feel that there's a crisis happening right now in women entrepreneurship, and it's not what you think. I'm sure you've heard me quote the statistic before that 88% of women entrepreneurs never break six figures. They never pass the $100,000 mark. And only 5% of women entrepreneurs reach $250,000 or more. And here's what breaks my heart, and it might break yours too. Many of these women were making mid six figures, and I'm sure you were too, in corporate. You've led teams, you've launched divisions, you've delivered multi-million-dollar outcomes. So why, when we make the shift from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship, does all of our confidence seem to completely fall away? Or if we're still feeling confident, it might be false confidence because we really haven't yet figured out the systems that make the entrepreneurial journey successful and sustainable. So here's what I see happening. The moment you leave corporate and step into entrepreneurship, you go from the woman with all the answers to the woman with all the questions. In corporate, you had the structure, you had predictable paychecks, you knew the rules of success, even when they required you to fit inside a box that really wasn't built for you. You knew how to play the game, to not be too loud, to not be too hard, to not be too soft, to speak up enough. But entrepreneurship is a completely different game. And it's a blank canvas. And for many of us, especially those who are stars in our organizations, it can feel very wobbly, it's a technical term, when you make this transition. Your confidence tends to fracture. And these micro fractures that make you hesitate in charging $5,000 for your brilliance that you used to deliver at a multi-million-dollar level. I know this because I've lived it. And when I first left corporate after 27 years as a group vice president, where I led a $32 million line of business, I wanted to leave all of that behind. So I launched my business as a life reinvention coach for women in midlife. New credentials, new identity, new excitement at this phase in my life. I really wanted to help other women navigate too. And what I realized was I was undercharging and over delivering because it all felt so new to me. After all, I'm only a new coach. So how can I charge premium rates? And that first year when I launched my business, I invested $80,000 in my own education and in the technology platform, all the software tools, technology. I had to buy my own computer. And at the end of the year, realized I only made $50,000 for my new endeavor. And I was $30,000 in the red. I took $30,000 out of my savings that never got replaced. And that couldn't continue for years and years and years. So something had to give. And that's when I realized it wasn't a skills problem. It was really a self-worth problem. And it was also a reaction to the trauma in corporate. So instead of bringing my corporate skills to the table, I was relying solely on my newest credential as a certified coach. So this is this conditioning, this corporate conditioning, and I'll talk about all the layers of conditioning. So let's just talk about that for a moment. Here's what we never talk about. We are all operating from an unconscious conditioning, and it's running the show behind the scenes, whether you realize it or not. So imagine 3 concentric circles. And in the center circle, you have your family of origin. And when you chose that family to be born into, you were born into a conditioned environment. So all the historical belief systems and patterns and values that your parents had that they got from their grandparents or parents, and that they got from their parents and their parents, and so on, were passed down to you almost like a genetic code of consciousness that you were not aware of, because this was just how it is in your family. So that's where your ideas about money and value and self-worth come from, right? So when I was growing up, the thing I heard most often from my dad was, Deb, don't do a half-assed job, right? So he was conditioned in his childhood that performance equal praise. And the worst thing that you could possibly do would be a half-assed job. And so he instilled in me that love was conditional and it was based on performance. And maybe you can relate to that. So that's when I learned that I had to be a good girl. There was a very narrow line that I could walk. I had to outperform my expectations, or at least understand what those expectations were so I could meet them and not be met with disappointment, which to a child is actually heartbreaking. So while it wasn't financial struggle in our family, my dad was successful. He was a CFO, but there was a lot of shame around money. And so I learned that you had to work hard for your money, and that life was hard and you had to sacrifice, and spending was shameful. So whenever I spent money, my dad would shame me. Think about the messages that you received as a child in your family growing up. They may have been messages around money. It might have been messages around your self-worth, of your value. Maybe love was conditional for you too. And then let's go out to the second circle. The second circle is when you went to school and you had teachers and you had other people in your life. So you had elementary school, junior high school, college, and then you went to work for corporate, and then you got different messaging. And some of this is explicit and some of it's implicit. Like, it's never really said out loud, but as you observe how the system works inside the organization you're in, you learn how to comply or how to not get into trouble. For women leaders in corporate, this is a very narrow path that we walk. We are not paid as much. The opportunities aren't as plentiful. We have to sometimes compete for them. And if you've ever met a woman in your corporate career who was the opposite of a mentor and a support for your journey, then you know exactly what I mean. And then we have society in general and culture. So if your family was not from the United States, then you also have a cultural conditioning that's been handed down to you that has values and systems of worth and what the unwritten rules are of behavior in that environment. And we have culture in general, right? In the United States, only a few decades ago, women couldn't take out a credit card. We couldn't apply for a mortgage. We had no financial rights. We didn't even have the friggin' right to vote. So we are conditioned unconsciously that we are less than, that we are second-class citizens. And if you layer into that a person of color, then you have even more conditioning layered on top of that. So those are the concentric circles of conditioning. And that's what's running your operating system today, unless you've become aware of it and you've made a conscious effort to deprogram yourself or create a new operating system. So for women especially, this conditioning runs deep. And for all of this and all of us, whether we're conscious of it or not, this creates the unconscious script that's running your day-to-day decisions. So how does this show up in your business? It shows up as undercharging, over-delivering, inadequate follow-up because someone doesn't reply to you. You make it mean something that they're not interested, or you just let it fall. It might mean that you're procrastinating on doing the very thing that you know will move the needle of success in your business. Or it could be perfectionism that keeps you from launching anything. So the number one mistake I see women make when it comes to inadequate sales is inadequate follow-up. And that is rooted in self-worth. So self-worth is equal to self-wealth. And if you take one thing away from this conversation today, that is the one thing I want you to take away, is self-worth equals self-wealth. Money is only a mirror. It doesn't mean anything else except that it's a reflection of our inner identity and our self-perception. You can't outrun unworthiness. You can't outrun scarcity. It literally blocks your ability to receive. All right, before we go further, I want to share something with you, because if what I'm saying is resonating, you're probably wondering, all right, Deb, I get it. I am running on a condition program. What do I actually do with this? How do I unravel some of this conditioning and actually step into a bigger value proposition, start charging what I'm worth, start making powerful offers, and start closing sales? So here's the thing. I have been teaching the exact same framework for 8 years in a program called the Launch Lab. And for years, I sold it for $5,000 or more, and it was worth every single penny that people paid for it. But after 8 years in the market, I knew I needed to update the content for today's tools, today's market, and today's mindset. And I also wanted to teach you how to use AI effectively in your business. So we are upgrading the entire Launch Lab portfolio, and we're calling it now the Business Coaching Academy, and it will live inside our Life After Corporate community. And if you've heard me mention the community before on this show, it's where you go to really spend time with me and other women leaders who are on this journey with you in real life, in real time, and get some real support. So here's what you'll get in the Business Coaching Academy when you join the Life After Corporate community. It's a proven 5-step framework that takes you from I don't know what to offer to closing premium clients. We discover the gap that you fill in the market. What's that new problem now that you've heard me talk about? You'll validate demand before you invest, package and price your offers for maximum profit, and craft compelling content that elevates you above the competition. It's a noisy market out there with coaching and consulting and fractional leadership growing at unprecedented rates. And this is where we activate your money-making model. It's not cookie cutter, it's unique to you. And as part of this, you get bi-weekly group mentorship calls with me, where you can bring your real world challenges and get real-time solutions. You get access to our private community of accomplished women leaders who are on the same journey as you are. And you get the step-by-step curriculum that's been refined over 8 years and with hundreds of successful clients. Now, as I said, the Launch Lab used to be $5,500 without the community. And truthfully, I am honestly questioning my sanity around this decision, but here it is. If you join the Life After Corporate community at an annual membership fee of $999 before November 30th, for the full year, you will get the Business Coaching Academy, which will be $397 a month starting January 1st. And you'll get it for no additional charge. So we'll put that link in the show notes. And I might even extend this offer. It depends. It's limited to 20 seats. So as soon as those 20 seats fill up, we'll close down the room and we'll close down that offer. So the link is in the show notes. So if you've been circling around trying to make a decision, oh, should I work with Deb? Can I afford it? This is as affordable as it gets, my friend. And if you've been trying to figure out how to grow your business on your own and that hasn't been working, then this is your moment. So I wanted to just pause here and put it in the middle of our show so that you didn't miss it if you missed the end of the episode. So there we go. So let's talk about how to stand out in 2026 in this super crowded market. So you have an uncopyable advantage, and it's based on your DNA. Just like you have a unique DNA, no one else has your exact genetic makeup. That's why DNA testing is so effective in solving crimes and finding criminals. Your message also has a genetic code designed to attract the ideal people to you. So everything about you is energy, right? You are an energetic being. You're having a human experience, and everything in our cells is energy. And this is what makes you unique. And this is what makes you uncopyable. AI can't be you. AI has all the knowledge from decades of conversations and books and ideas and formulas and code and all of that, but it doesn't have you. And this is sort of the anti-AI formula for how to stand out in 2026. So your uncopyable advantage is the intersection of what you love, what you excel at, and what the market needs most right now. It's your unique blend of talents, experiences, and perspectives that set you apart from everyone else in your category. So let me give you an example. I had a client a few years ago. Her name is Trisha. She's a very good friend of mine right now. She came to me as a fractional CFO, and her background was Wall Street. She was an equities market specialist. And when this was about 2020 and COVID hit, and we had the idle loans and PPP, and people were going out of business, it was a scary time for a lot of business owners. And Trisha had joined the Standout Webinars program. She had created a webinar that was really scary. I mean, like, the images were dark, the words were fear-based. And I was like, oh my God, this is scaring me. And you want to close clients based on this talk? This is frightening. And then one day in the room, she mentioned, well, I was a Broadway dancer in The Lion King. Like, she just let it drop. And I think you could have heard a pin drop in that room. We all just looked at her and said, you danced on Broadway? And it was a lightning moment that brought to light that there was so much more in Trisha's DNA and her energetic blueprint than just numbers. That she was a creator, she was a choreographer, she loved movement and feeling. So we brought all of her to the table in her business. So in a world where financial services are a commodity, Trisha helps you dance with your numbers. Now that's an uncopyable advantage. So here's your homework. I want you to write this down in your journal and just riff on it. I am the one who. I am the one who helps corporate women leaders who are earning more than $200,000 make the transition to entrepreneurship so that they can bring their expertise to the table in a way that brings wealth, worth, and wisdom to their lives. Now, I just made that up on the spot. But do you get how specific that is? It mentions who my ideal client is. It mentions what they want to do. They want the freedom, the flexibility to build success on their own terms. And they want to make more money, meaning and impact, doing work that they truly love. So when I walk into a room and I'm at a networking event and say, hi, I'm Deb Boulanger. I work with senior women leaders who want to replace a hefty corporate paycheck as an entrepreneur, and they want to make more money, meaning and impact, doing work that they truly love. Then people in the room can say, oh, I have someone that I can introduce you to. And that's how you get referrals. So I want you to get super clear and super crisp on who you are and that statement, I am the one who. Because your voice is your visibility. And there's something that only you see so clearly that people find a mystery. So what's that framework or methodology that you bring to the table? What is that experience that only you can give your people? In 2026, the market is going to demand radical transparency as the source of true originality. So we need to get real on all the aspects of you and create a unique, uncopyable advantage in your message and your presence in the marketplace. So let's just talk about sales for a minute. Now, all of this means nothing if you can't close a sale from it. So if you can't invite people to work with you with confidence, right? So let's talk about why prospects say no, because it's rarely about the price. They say no because they don't feel certain. And this economy right now, there's a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty is not going to let up for 2026. People don't trust themselves. They don't trust you. They don't trust the system or the environment that we're in right now. We are in a trust recession. And here's the thing, your self-trust precedes anyone trusting you. Right? So if you don't believe in yourself, if you don't trust the words you're saying, that energy enters the room before you do. And everyone who is in that room will pick up on that vibration. So when someone says, I need to think about it, here's what you say. That makes total sense. I like to think about important decisions too. Are you open to me asking you a few questions about your thinking? What is it specifically that you need to think about? Now, most times when someone says, I need to think about it, the response is, oh, okay, I understand that. You don't even make a follow-up call. Instead, that person leaves the conversation where you have lost a sale and they've lost a solution. So because when people express their thinking out loud, they get to the bottom line of their fear. And when they get to the bottom line of their fear, they get clarity and it gives you a path forward. There's something to coach on if someone can express what they're truly afraid of. And people never argue with themselves. So the purpose of a sales call is really to give them clarity around their own thinking so that they can make the best possible decision for themselves. And most of the time you chicken out. And when they say, I can't afford it, the flip on that script is, what is a priority for your investments right now? If money wasn't a barrier, does this feel like the right solution for you? Because if they say yes, then you have a path forward to working out, well, what pieces of this could we tackle right now? Or what type of a payment plan would make it easier for you? And we're also talking about the cost of inaction and the value of change so that we're bringing ROI into the conversation, because there's always a cost of inaction. There's always a cost of doing nothing. And there's always a value to change. So you're not pressuring them. You're just leading them into a place of possibility. And here's the structure for every converting sales conversation. It starts with a challenge, reaffirming their challenge, reaffirming their desired outcome. If we were having this conversation a year from now, what would you be celebrating? Mirroring it back to them. It sounds like it's costing you confidence. It's costing you a six-figure salary. And what you really want is to be celebrating crossing that milestone a year from now. Do I have that right? This is not manipulative. This is reflective. This is good conversation skills. And then this time when Mercury is in retrograde right now, good conversation skills are an asset. And then you ask permission to make an offer. Would you like to talk about working together? What working together could look like? You don't pitch. You don't slap on a sales pitch. You don't go into details about features and functions and pricing and all those details. You just ask permission. Would you like to talk about what working together could look like? And in this conversation, you're doing about 20 to 30% of the talking. The purpose here is to clarify what your potential client's next best step is. Does that make sense? If 80% of your success as an entrepreneur is your mindset, if it's how you're showing up and what you're believing to be true and your unconscious operating system that is truly running in the show, and it's the level of success that you're allowing yourself to receive, then what needs to shift in your business? What needs to shift in your life right now? 20% is skill set, and skill set is the easy part. It's easy to take a course. It's easy to learn a new skill. It's much harder to learn how to receive and learn how to rewrite the script that you've been given and that you've been playing in your unconscious mind for decades. So this is why it's so hard to go from corporate to entrepreneurship. You're leaning so hard on your skill set, but your mindset hasn't caught up yet. And your mind is still acting like an employee when you're an entrepreneur. So here's my invitation to you. Don't believe anything you think. Your brain is naturally fear-based. 95% of your full capacity lies in your unconscious mind. That's where creativity exists. That's where your brilliance lives. But your fear sits there too. And you're relying on only 5% of your executive function and your logical brain to make your decisions. And your logical brain doesn't have the capacity to make the best decisions for you. And when you're in a place of fear, it's impossible for creativity and fear to exist in the same mind at the same time. So we need to break the pattern. We need to observe what's happening, be compassionate and say, isn't this interesting? I have this big desire and I'm feeling afraid right now. And then we can reframe the fear and respond differently. And it takes conscious effort and awareness. And it typically takes support. Because to create a different result, you need to believe and behave differently. And abundance is your birthright. not because of what you were taught or what circumstances you were born into. Abundance is your birthright, period. It's all around you, and it's yours for the asking. So here's what I want you to walk away with today. Your self-worth equals your self-wealth. Your uncopyable advantage is your genetic code to client attraction. And self-trust precedes every single sale. You didn't lose your talent when you left corporate. You just lost your self-trust for a minute. Let's get it back. I'm Deb Boulanger. This was Wisdom, Worth, and Wealth for the Life After Corporate podcast. I would love to welcome you into the Life After Corporate community and to be able to mentor you in the Business Coaching Academy. It's full of smart and accomplished women leaders just like you who are making the transition from corporate leadership to entrepreneurship. It is the safest place for you to be right now, where you will learn the skill set and the mindset for success. So let's go be seen. Here's to your success, and I'll see you next time on the show.